Our entire friend group mocked his masculinity at dinner. His revenge shocked the whole restaurant. Hello, Reddit. First time posting here, so please bear with me if this doesn't flow as well as the stories I've seen in videos. I'm one of those people who usually watches Reddit story compilations on YouTube during my downtime, and I never thought I'd be the one writing my own. But when I finally needed somewhere to turn for help and advice, I figured, why not Reddit? So here I am, typing this out in the middle of the night, scared, confused, and trying to make sense of everything that's happened. I feel like my world is crumbling, and I really don't want to lose my marriage over something like this. I know relationships can hit rough patches and no one is perfect, but it feels like Matt is overreacting this time. He shut me out completely, and it's breaking my heart. I just wish he'd sit down and talk to me so we could figure out a way to move forward. I don't want this to be the end of us. I'm hoping that by writing this post, I can gain some perspective and maybe even show Matt that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. I'm not perfect, and I'll admit I've made mistakes, but I love him, and I can't imagine my life without him. For the sake of anonymity, let's call me Amy and my husband Matt. I'm 29, he's 28, and we've been married for 2 years. We met in college, and we've been together ever since. Matt is, in every sense of the word, an incredible person. The thing is, Matt has always been his own kind of person. He's quiet, sure, but don't mistake that for weakness. He knows how to stand up for himself when the situation calls for it. He's just not one of those loud, attention-seeking types. He keeps to himself and does his own thing. Honestly, it was one of the things that drew me to him in the first place. He was different. He wasn't like the other guys I dated who were loud, obnoxious, and trying too hard to prove how manly they were. Matt didn't need to do all that. He just was. But I'd be lying if I said there weren't things about him that I found unconventional. Matt has hobbies that some people might classify as non-traditional for a guy. He loves baking, like genuinely loves it. He'll spend hours perfecting a cake recipe or trying out new bread techniques. And knitting. Don't even get me started. I'll be sitting on the couch watching TV, and he'll be next to me knitting some scarf or blanket. It's not exactly what I envisioned when I thought about marrying a man's man, you know? And then there's his obsession with fashion and skincare. Matt has a skincare routine more elaborate than mine, and he's so into it. He's got all these products lined up in the bathroom, and he actually uses them religiously. He also dresses better than anyone I know. He's one of those people who can put on the simplest outfit and somehow make it look like it came straight off a runway. Honestly, he could be a model if he wanted to. At first, I didn't mind much. I mean, who doesn't want a hot husband, right? And Matt is hot. Like, when we go out together, I notice the way people look at him. It's flattering in a way because, hey, he's mine. But as time went on, I started to feel a little weird about it. I grew up in a very traditional household where men didn't do things like baking or knitting. My dad didn't even know where the vacuum cleaner was, and I don't think I ever saw him cook a meal in his life. Men were supposed to be tough, stoic providers, not worrying about whether their serums had the right amount of hyaluronic acid or perfecting the flakiness of a pie crust. So yeah, it was a little strange for me. Not bad, just different. But Matt made it work. He's good at what he does, and honestly, I got spoiled. He works in cybersecurity, which is a high-pressure job, but when he's home, he's the one who takes over the house chores most of the time. He'll cook dinner, clean up, do laundry. Basically, he makes my life easier. He even tells me to sit down and relax while he handles everything. And while I appreciated it, I mean, who wouldn't? Part of me started feeling like, I don't know, like something was off. It wasn't that I didn't love him. I did. But it was hard to reconcile this image of my husband with what I'd always thought a husband should be. And okay, I'll admit it, there were times when I found myself wishing he were a little more traditional. I mean, would it kill him to put down the knitting needles and, I don't know, fix something around the house? I know, it sounds terrible, but I can't help how I feel. I grew up with this idea of what a husband should be, and Matt, he just didn't fit that mold. And as much as I admired his quirks and the way he kept everything so polished and perfect, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was missing. Like, would it really kill him to act a little more like the kind of man you see in movies? Someone who could chop wood, fix cars, or at least pretend to know how to build a damn shelf. I know it sounds selfish, and maybe it is, but I've always been a little selfish. I like things a certain way. I like feeling like I'm being taken care of. And as much as Matt did take care of me in so many ways, it wasn't the kind of care I thought I wanted. I loved how he pampered himself and made our home feel like a luxury hotel. But deep down, I wanted him to take charge in a more stereotypical way. I wanted to feel like I had a man in the house, not just a partner who happened to bake better pies than my grandmother ever could. And then there was my friend group, a couple of girls I used to work with before I quit my job to become a stay-at-home wife. Funny enough, we never really connected much when I was working with them. We were friendly, sure, but it wasn't like we were hanging out on weekends or anything. But after I left the job, something shifted. We all went our separate ways. Some stayed at the company, others moved on to different jobs. And of course, I quit to focus on building a home, or at least that's what I told everyone. But after we left, we somehow started making more of an effort to see each other. It started small, occasional texts, catching up over coffee, sharing memes, but before I knew it, we were hanging out regularly. And when I say regularly, I mean regularly. Weekly dinners, happy hours, shopping trips. These girls became my lifeline. And I'll be honest, I loved it. I loved having this group of women who got me, who weren't afraid to vent about their husbands or boyfriends, to share their frustrations and laugh about the ridiculous things their partners did. So at first, it was just harmless fun, you know? We'd hang out, sip on wine, and joke about the silly little quirks our partners had. It was fun, light-hearted banter that didn't mean anything. But then, as we got closer, those surface-level jokes turned into deeper conversations. We started opening up, confiding in each other about our frustrations, our insecurities, and all the things we felt we couldn't tell anyone else. And of course, that's when Matt became a bit of a thing. I didn't mean for it to happen, really, I didn't. But one night, after a couple of glasses of wine, I let something slip. I mentioned how Matt spent his weekends knitting scarves, baking macarons, and meticulously following his skincare routine like it was some sacred ritual. I thought it would be a quick laugh, maybe a funny anecdote to share and move on from. But oh no, it wasn't just a laugh, it was a gold mine for the girls. It was like I'd opened Pandora's box or the floodgates. They couldn't get enough of it. Suddenly, every hangout involved some new joke about house husband Matt, or how I must be the man of the house. They'd make comments like, "Wow, Amy, does he let you wear the pants, or does he just pick out better ones?" At first, I laughed along, of course. What else was I supposed to do? Sit there and defend him like some buzzkill? Besides, it wasn't like they were wrong. The jokes were funny, harmless even. I didn't want to disrespect Matt. He's my husband, I love him, or at least I think I do. But at the same time, I couldn't deny that the things they were saying, the jokes they were making, they struck a chord. It wasn't like they were saying anything I hadn't already thought of myself. In fact, in some twisted way, their jokes made me feel validated. Like for the first time, I wasn't crazy for wanting more out of my marriage. I wasn't crazy for feeling frustrated when Matt would spend hours perfecting the icing on a cake instead of doing something more traditionally manly. These women got it. They understood me in a way that Matt never had. And honestly, their validation felt good. It felt good to have someone else say the things I was too afraid to say out loud. It felt good to know that I wasn't alone in my feelings, that other women had similar frustrations and could laugh about them together. And yeah, maybe it wasn't entirely fair to Matt, but at the time, I didn't really care. The worst part, the absolute worst part of all of this, was how much it started to sink in. The jokes, the teasing, the comments, it all seeped into my head so deeply that I didn't even realize it was happening. At first, it was like a slow drip, you know? Bit by bit, it became part of the way I saw Matt, part of the way I acted with him. It started off small, just little things here and there. A joke at dinner about how he was basically a house husband, or a playful comment about how I was the man in the relationship. At first, I thought it was harmless. It wasn't like I was trying to hurt him. It was just banter, right? Just a little teasing to keep things light. But then it started happening more and more. The jokes got sharper, the teasing more pointed. I'd roll my eyes when he talked about his latest knitting project, or groan when he asked me to taste test some new pastry he was working on. Somewhere along the line, the jokes stopped being just jokes. They started feeling like little truths I couldn't ignore. And I guess in some twisted way, I wanted him to feel it too. So yeah, I started to behave differently. I'd make these little comments, say things in a tone that I knew was borderline condescending, like when he'd spend hours in the kitchen perfecting some elaborate dessert, or when he'd get excited about a new sweater he was knitting. I'd roll my eyes and say something cruel. Because as much as I loved Matt, as much as I appreciated everything he did for me in our home, part of me resented him. I resented the fact that he wasn't the manly man I thought I wanted. I resented the fact that he seemed so content being the way he was, while I was sitting there wishing he'd change. It wasn't just me who teased Matt, it was everyone in my circle. On the rare occasions he came out with us, my friends would jump at the opportunity to poke fun at him. I should have stepped in, but I didn't. It was easier to just laugh along, to go with the flow, even though I could see that he was uncomfortable. Everything came to a head during one particular dinner. I had picked the restaurant, a fancy, overpriced place that I knew Matt would cover, as he usually did. The night started out fine. We ordered, we chatted, and things were as they always were. Then the topic of masculinity came up. It started innocently enough, with my friends making sly comments about men in general, but soon it turned into jokes about Matt. At first, I stayed out of it, just laughing along, but the longer it went on, the easier it became to join in. It didn't feel serious at the time, just light-hearted teasing. The comments piled on. His hobbies, his skincare routine, the way he dressed. My friends painted him as this caricature, and I played right into it. I can still hear myself making a jab about how he probably spent more time picking out his outfits than I did. Then, out of nowhere, he snapped. He didn't yell, but his voice carried enough weight to make the entire table go silent. He started calling out my friends one by one, tearing into their hypocrisies. He didn't hold back. He pointed out how one of them was couch surfing because her partner had kicked her out for cheating. He exposed another for pretending to be wealthy while wearing fake jewelry and drowning in debt. He called out the one who was jobless but lied about having a high-profile career. And then he turned to me. He said it was insane that I could sit there mocking him when I depended on him for everything. He pointed out that not only was I financially reliant on him, but I had also brought along a group of broke friends who had no problem ordering expensive meals, fully expecting him to foot the bill. He told us all we were hypocrites, and he wasn't about to pay to feed people who acted like they were better than him, but were, in reality, beneath him. The restaurant was dead silent. All eyes were on us, and I can't even blame them. Matt stood, took out his wallet, paid for his portion of the meal, and left without another word. I was so shocked, I couldn't even move. My friends were equally stunned, just sitting there in awkward silence. Eventually, the reality of the situation hit. He wasn't going to pay the bill, and neither was I. My friends started whispering, looking at me with panicked expressions, clearly expecting me to cover it, but I couldn't. I told the waiter we'd be splitting the bill. That's when things got messy. None of them had the money to pay for their food. They argued, pleaded, but I stood my ground. I wasn't about to foot the bill for a group of people who had spent the entire evening mocking my husband. I reached for my phone to check our joint account, intending to pay for my portion, but when I opened it, my heart dropped. The account was completely drained. Panic set in. I knew Matt must have withdrawn everything. He was furious, and this was his way of making a statement. Desperate, I called my mom for help. She was livid but agreed to lend me the money. I promised to pay her back, paid my share of the bill, and left my friends to figure out their own situation. I just wanted to find Matt. I called him repeatedly, but he didn't pick up. He had taken the car, so I didn't even have a way to get home. With no money left, I called my mom again, hoping for more help, but she was tapped out. Eventually, I had to call my sister, who sent me enough for an Uber. When I got home, the house was empty. Matt wasn't there. I waited all night, pacing, checking my phone every few minutes, but he didn't come back. By morning, I was a mess. I had no idea where he was, no idea how to fix what I had done. The next day came and went, and Matt still didn't show up. I was in full-blown panic mode, calling and texting him relentlessly. Every call went straight to voicemail, and every message went unanswered. Days passed. 3 long, agonizing days, and there was no sign of him. Desperation clawed at me, and I began searching for him everywhere I could think of. I went to his parents' house first, hoping they might give me some clue about where he was, but when I showed up, they wouldn't even let me in. His mother told me to leave and not come back, warning that if I didn't, they'd call the police. It was clear Matt had told them everything, and they were firmly on his side. From there, I tried his siblings, but it was the same story. They wouldn't give me any answers. Every door I knocked on was slammed in my face, and every attempt to explain or plead was met with silence or outright hostility. It was like I had been completely cut out of his life. In a last-ditch effort, I went to his workplace. I thought maybe I could catch him there, talk to him face to face, and at least get some clarity. But when I arrived, his colleagues called security, who escorted me out of the building without so much as a word. I felt humiliated. At that point, I decided maybe he just needed time and space. I told myself that he was probably overwhelmed and would come back when he was ready. I was hoping that we could fix things, that we could talk it out and start fresh. After about a week of silence, he finally showed up at the house. When I saw him, my heart leapt. I thought this was it, the moment we'd start putting the pieces back together. I was ready to apologize, to grovel, to do whatever it took to make things right. But his expression shattered any hope I had. He wasn't there to reconcile. He wasn't there to talk. He was there to end it. When he told me he wanted a divorce, I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. I couldn't breathe. I started crying, hyperventilating, begging him not to give up on us like this. I pleaded with him, told him we could fix it, that I'd do anything. Couples counseling, therapy, cutting off my friends. I told him I'd already cut them off. I hadn't spoken to them since that night, hadn't even glanced at their texts or answered their calls. I was willing to do whatever it took, but he just shook his head. He told me there was no way he could stay with someone who thought of him as a joke, who looked down on him so much that she'd humiliate him in front of others. He said he wasn't interested in working on it, that he deserved better than to be someone's punchline. I was sobbing uncontrollably by then, clutching at him, begging him not to throw away our marriage, but he was resolute. He told me to pack my things and leave while it was still light out. He even offered to call an Uber and pay for it. I begged him not to make me leave, pleaded with him to give me another chance, but it was like talking to a wall. He didn't yell or lose his temper. He just called the Uber and started helping me pack my things when it became clear I was too distressed to do it myself. I was crying so hard I could barely see as he carried my bags to the car. When the Uber arrived, he opened the door, put my things inside, and told the driver the address to my parents' house. I begged him one last time, but he didn't even respond. He just closed the door and walked back into the house. The ride to my parents' place was a blur. I cried the entire way, my chest heaving, my mind racing with thoughts of how to fix this. How could I have let it get this bad? How could I have hurt him so deeply that he wanted nothing to do with me? When I arrived, my parents were shocked to see me like this. They didn't understand what had happened, and I didn't even have the words to explain. All I could do was cry. I don't want to lose my marriage. I don't want to lose Matt. But now I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make him see that I'm sincere, that I'm willing to change, that I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. How do I fix this? How do I show him that I'm not the same person who hurt him so badly? How do I get my husband back? Update. Hello Reddit. First of all, I hope I'm doing this right. It's my first time ever posting an update on here, so yeah. I really hope this is the right way. I've been reading through everything, trying to process it all, and honestly, posting here was a huge wake-up call for me. The comments, the DMs about how horrible I was, it hit hard. Like it hurt to read, but it also helped me realize just how wrong I was. just how messed up everything I did was. I've been reflecting nonstop, and I realize now that if I could, I would apologize to Matt 1,000 times more. Maybe that wouldn't even be enough, but I'd try. A lot of people in the comments said some things marriages just can't recover from, and you guys were right. I got served divorce papers. I still can't believe it. It's like I'm in a daze. My parents keep saying I shouldn't be shocked, that I should have known what was coming, but honestly, a part of me was still hoping, still holding on to the hope that somehow a miracle would happen and we could fix this. But now I guess that's not happening, is it? I've been sitting with this, and I know I messed up. I know that sorry isn't going to fix anything. It's a nice word, but it's not some magic fix-all. You can apologize all you want, but if you keep hurting the person you claim to love, that apology doesn't mean much. Matt's done with me. He doesn't want to even give me the chance to make things right. I sent him so many messages, called him over and over, and nothing. He won't budge. I guess that's just it. He's done. And if that wasn't bad enough, he was my only source of income. Now I'm stuck relying on my parents just to survive. I've broken down more times than I can count. Without them, I honestly don't know where I'd be. Well, I do. I'd probably be at rock bottom. But they've been my lifeline, so I can't even imagine what my life would be like without them right now. I don't know what to do anymore. I really don't. I'm lost. And as for my friends, well, I haven't heard from them since that day. They sent me a bunch of messages, but I deleted them without even reading them. I couldn't face them. I couldn't hear what they had to say. So yeah, I've cut them off completely. I don't want anything to do with them. I don't want to hear from them ever again. To me, they were the ones who made things worse. They planted all these stupid ideas in my head, things that ruined my marriage, and I'm done with them. I don't care about any of them anymore. They might have been my friends, but I'm not going back to them. It's strange, though. I can't help but think about how different everything could have been if I just acted differently. I was so caught up in my own mess that I completely ignored what mattered most, and now it's too late. I don't even know where to go from here. I guess I just wanted to update you all and say that I realize now how messed up I was. I don't expect anyone to forgive me. I don't even know if Matt ever will, but I'm trying to face the consequences of what I did. I've got a long way to go to figure this out, and as for what's next, I'm not sure, but I'm trying to figure that out too. Update. Hello Reddit, it's been a while since I last updated. Honestly, life has just been, well, a mess. I've been so caught up in it all that I couldn't even bring myself to post. But now here I am again, writing this out, and I feel beyond embarrassed. So here's the thing. I'm pretty sure Matt found my original post. It's not like he uses Reddit, but I'm sure someone else saw it, found it, and showed it to him. And when he forwarded it to me with a simple, "This you," I think that's when I truly realized how much I've screwed up. I swore I'd never post again, but here I am. This is going to be my final update, the last chapter of this whole mess. I'm hoping that somehow he'll see this and maybe, just maybe, understand just how bad my life has been over the past few months. Maybe it'll even show him how much I regret everything and how badly I want to fix things. Maybe we can start over, date again or something? I don't know. I know it sounds pathetic, but I just feel so lost. So to catch everyone up, after the divorce was finalized, I completely snapped. That was the turning point, I guess. I didn't fully process the weight of everything until that moment. It felt like everything was crashing down around me, and I couldn't handle it. I ended up in a 24-hour psych ward evaluation because I honestly just didn't want to be here anymore. I was in so much pain that I thought I couldn't bear it. I was just heartbroken, and when I got out, it didn't get any better. And then my parents, the people I thought were my support system, they turned their backs on me. They told me they were too old for this kind of drama, that I was too much for them. It stung like 1,000 needles. I mean, these were the people I thought would be there for me no matter what. But no, they kicked me out. So I had to pick myself up, barely, and travel to my cousin's place to stay for a while. I had nothing left, no one left. After a while, I found a job as a live-in nanny. It was all I could do to stay afloat. The pay was barely anything, just minimum wage, and it felt like I was working myself into the ground for people who acted like it was a privilege to have me there. It was exhausting, And honestly, it felt like it's not the life I wanted, but it's what I had then. I was just trying to survive. After that, I got sick. As if things couldn't get worse, I got really, really sick, and I was in the hospital. I could barely pay my hospital bills, of course, and I got fired. I can't even barely afford medication right now. I started a GoFundMe, but people aren't really donating, and I really don't blame them for that. So now I'm kind of jobless. I'm looking for jobs. I'm kind of jobless and homeless. I'm looking for jobs that have live-in positions. So, I mean, if anybody has anything like that, you can just send me a DM, please. I also had to move back home after I got fired from my job as a live-in nanny. I just, moved back to my home state. My parents still won't let me stay with them. But at least we're kind of rekindling our relationship right now, so who knows? When I look back at everything, it's hard to even recognize myself. I didn't realize what I had until I lost it all. I thought I could take things for granted, that it would always be there. But now I see how wrong I was. I've lost Matt, my friends, and any stability I had. I never expected it to go down this way. I guess I was too blinded by my own pride, my own stupidity, to see how good I had it. Now I would give anything to turn back time, to undo the mistakes I made, but I can't. All I can do now is reflect on everything I lost and hope that maybe there's a way to fix things. I know this probably isn't going to change anything, and honestly, I don't even know if Matt will ever read this. But if he does, I just want him to know how sorry I am. I am so sorry. He deserved better. He deserved someone who would fight for him, who wouldn't push him away like I did. I should have tried harder. I should have done better. I am so ashamed of myself. And all I want is for him to know that I would do anything to make it right if he gave me even the smallest chance. So yeah, that's why I'm posting this. My life has been a complete roller coaster of just non-stop misery. And what hurts the most is knowing that if I'd just tried harder, if I had just given more of a damn, maybe it wouldn't have come to this. Maybe I wouldn't have lost everything. I hate myself so much right now. It's like I'm stuck in this endless loop of self-loathing, replaying everything over and over in my head, and the worst part is I don't even know how to stop it. I feel like I'm drowning in my own mistakes, and there's no way out. Sometimes I wonder if this suffering I'm going through is my punishment, my penance for what I've done. Like I deserve this pain, like I've earned it. I think I hate myself because deep down, I know I could have done better. I could have been a better partner, a better friend, a better person, but I wasn't. I was selfish. I was careless. And now I'm paying for it in ways I never expected. It's hard to admit this, but I think the hardest part is knowing that I don't have any idea how to fix things. I don't know how to make it right. I've tried apologizing. I've tried doing better, but sometimes it feels like it's too late. Maybe it is too late. Maybe I'm just stuck in this mess forever, and that's what I deserve. Maybe Matt will never forgive me, but if somehow, some way he reads this, I want him to know that I am truly sorry, and I would give anything to turn back time and make things right.